Welcome to the High Risk Payments Playbook, the podcast for partners and merchants operating in complex industries. If you're navigating chargebacks, underwriting challenges, compliance hurdles, reserve or volume limit challenges, and approval roadblocks, you're in the right place. Each week, we break down the realities of high-risk credit card processing, what works, what doesn't, and how to build sustainable payment strategies focused on revenue growth for industries where others struggle. This is where strategy meets execution. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the High Risk Payments Playbook. I'm Lissa, your host, and today I am thrilled to share that we are welcoming Charles Gaudet to our conversation. Charles was recognized by the International Business Times as the go-to business coach for 7-8-figure entrepreneurs. He's the founder of Predictable Profits, where he helps 7- and 8-figure business owners escape what he calls the founder's trap, the cycle of being the bottleneck in their own company. He's built a reputation for turning founder-dependent businesses into scalable, sellable assets using his proprietary Predictable Profits operating system. His work has been featured in Forbes, Yahoo Finance, and Inc. Charlie, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My esteemed colleague and friend. So you and I know each other from having been partners for a little while in a couple different lives. And so I thought maybe today we would take a deep dive on partnerships.
Love it.
Okay.
Sure.
So tell me this. I know you're a huge proponent of partnerships. You and I have had this discussion. How come? Why do you find partnerships so valuable?
Businesses don't succeed or die due to a good idea or a bad idea. It actually all comes down to momentum. And partnerships is one of the easiest ways to generate a significant amount of momentum. The way that I like to think about it, so metaphorically, if you've ever been camping before, oftentimes you see if you're going to start a fire, you get these two sticks and you rub these two sticks together. And during those moments of running those two sticks together, that's like when you're starting your business. And it takes so much time, it takes so much energy, and it's exhausting. And right before you want to quit more than anything else in the world, all of a sudden you see this little red ember. And that little red ember is hope. And in your business, that might be when people start buying just a little bit here and there. You start getting a little bit of traffic. So then you have to nurture it. And you put pine needles and bark and whatnot till you get a flame. And then you just add a little bit more. And then you get a bonfire and then so forth. And then you get this big giant fire where you could put trees on it. But even if you put buckets of water, you still can't put out the fire. And that's because that's momentum. And businesses need to create that momentum in order to survive. And so when you have a partnership, we've had several partners before where they predictably bring in several hundred leads every single month over and over again. You get those several hundred leads and those people begin converting, you start creating that massive amount of momentum. And in many cases, it takes almost just as much effort to sell a partner as it does to sell a one-on-one deal. So, there is that other element as well. I mean, look, Lissa, there's a ton of reasons. And even in today's day and age where AI is becoming a bigger component of the buyer's journey. Mm-hmm. When you have a partner that's able to refer somebody into your organization, refer a client or a customer, you're at this point increasing your odds of somebody not going to the search engines or not going to AI to find the best vendor for their needs. So when you have a partner that can shortcut a lot of the process too, and AI proof you at least against the AI forward buyer's journey.
Awesome. One of the biggest challenges, I agree with you about partners, right? Because in merchant services, I could definitely spend the same amount of time selling, if you will, to a merchant that I would a partner, and the partner will bring me exponentially more business over time.
Yep.
So you and I are totally on the same page. Here's what I hear when I'm training partners, and I know you do this every day as a business coach. What's your best advice to businesses for who to look for as a partner? How do you follow through the thinking to get to sort of your ideal partners or who you think might be your ideal partners?
So the first partnership that I ever formed was actually way back in 2001. I had a real estate development business. And the part that I always struggled with is I looked at everybody and it's like they sell a house and then they move on and they try to build another home. But I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, I'm putting up so much money and there's so much risk and there's so much buying that goes back and forth. I'm like, it seems like a sin not to find more ways to maximize the opportunities with these buyers. So I started looking at it in three different buckets. I said, what are they buying before they invest in their home?
Mhm.
What are they buying during the construction of their home? And then what do they need after they're done with the home? So before the home, those are people that can refer business to us, right? So they can refer people to buy a home from us. While they're in the home, there might be things like security alarms or home theaters or upgraded plumbing or whatever that might be. And so that's all the stuff in the while they're doing it. And then after the home, it's things like furniture. They need to furnish it, right? After they own. So we would go to these partners. And at this point, mind you, I had no training, I had no coach, I had no mentor. I was about as green as it came, but I was in way over $1 million in debt, paying double-digit interest rates. So I was trying to do whatever I could to pay down this debt. And so I would go to companies and I would say, hey, look, I've got this client base and I need to provide them with an advantage that is unavailable to them, to the public, to anywhere else. So if I bring you clients, I need you to provide them with an advantage that they can't get anywhere else. And then because I'm bringing you clients and you're giving them the advantage and you don't have to pay for the cost of acquisition, I'd like to share in a small percentage of the revenues that they end up spending with you. And we went to even some big companies like Twitter as an example, who had never even done this before. And they had to take it all the way up the chain to see, is this something we could do? And the result was we ended up generating thousands of dollars on a very frequent basis, to the point where my accountant, a big accounting firm out in Boston, came to my house unannounced, which very scary, by the way, when the principal of a big accounting firm shows up unannounced. I open the door and he says, can I come in? And my heart is pounding. I'm going, oh my God, what is happening here?
Uh-huh.
He lets himself through the door, sits down at my breakfast table and says, we need to talk. And I'm like, what happened? And he said, I don't understand. You've purchased your properties at fair market value. You're selling it at fair market value, yet you have the highest profit margin out of any of the contractors that we work with. What are you doing and is it legal? And when I told him, it was the first time that I ever knew that we did something different. I just assumed everybody did it. So it was huge. But the key elements here that worked, rather than saying, hey, can you refer people to me? I mean, I don't know about you, Lisa. I get about 100 of those a day.
Mhm.
It's disguised as a partnership. Let's have a partnership. And what they're really saying is, I just want you to refer a whole bunch of business to me.
Right.
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 And I'm not going to do anything for you. You just, sir.
Right.
And it's just delete all those messages. But instead, when you go to it, and number one, you look at it, what we call a triple win JV. A triple win is everybody wins. It means that if I refer somebody over to you, the person I'm referring gets a win because they get an advantage that the public's not getting. The company gets a win because the company is getting a client, and I get a win because I'll share in some sort of benefit. Dropbox did this where they said, look, you get 256 megabytes for yourself if somebody signs up. The person who signs up gets 256 megabytes. And look, hey, we get a client. And that helped really grow Dropbox. PayPal did this when they were trying to do it. I think it was something like, you get $50, I get $50, the whole deal. Uber did this. You share a ride, I share. And so those triple win type of scenarios were phenomenal at really just boosting that momentum and creating those partnerships. Because if I'm referring somebody if I refer you to work with predictable profits, for example, if I refer you and I have a benefit that you can't get anywhere in the public, then what ends up happening is I look like the hero. I'm giving you a little inside scoop that you can't get anywhere else, a little inside benefit. So it even helps me, it makes it easier for me to refer people. So there's a lot of different ways to form these partnerships, but it's great, great, great when you do it. I will say though, to be fair, it is important that you vet your partners. I have seen this with a competitor of ours. They formed a partnership that actually was they formed a partnership with a guy who was just had really low integrity.
Mm.
And the company that they partnered with, that they were referring business to, he got discovered as being shady and whatnot, and actually took down both companies.
Ooh,
Yeah. So you
yeah,
do want to make sure that you really vet your partners well, because your
yeah.
reputation. Fine.
Look, I love those examples. You know that we focus on high risk verticals, right? One of which, of course, is nutraceuticals. And because I know you, I know that you have a nutraceutical product of your own. And so there it is.
Yep.
And so beautiful packaging, by the way.
Thank you.
And so here's my question to you. Have you looked for partners in that space? And if so, how did you narrow down who you chose? And tell me why you chose them.
So great question. So this Founders Fuel was as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of an accidental business, right? So we haven't gone too deep into the partnership realm just yet. We are going there. One of the partners that we have is with Ageless Future. It's nice that one of the founders is actually also one of our business partners over here. But it wouldn't have made a difference, because the way that we did it is we said, okay, Founders Fuel solves a problem, right? It solves a problem, meaning that it helps people have more focus, reduce their stress, and sustained energy. And it does it in a very unique way. And so Ageless Future, what they do is they're in the business of helping affluent, ambitious entrepreneurs and executives have more energy and perform better at work, and also a whole bunch of other benefits to create vibrancy and better health. And so this helps solve one of the core challenges that they have. And so where they're in the business of prescribing a protocol that is the best in the business, we believe that this is the best in the business and can attach into their protocol.
Mhm.
And so there's one of the things that we do when it comes to any partnerships in general is the worst way to form a partnership is to say, hey, look, let's partner together, and anybody that you refer to me, I'll give you money.
Mhm.
Now, that might actually sound counterintuitive, but that actually is the worst way to establish a partnership, I find, because what I've learned over decades of forming partnerships is the biggest objection that a partner has is not, how do I make money out of this? Is the concern about, if I refer business over to you, I need to make sure it doesn't hurt my reputation or cannibalize the work that I'm doing with my existing clients.
Mhm.
So what we've learned is that the best partnerships happen when you go to solve a particular problem. So, for example, we work with one of the largest business media organizations in the world for predictable profits. And the reason why we work with them is not only did we help double their business as a client, but we said to them, we go, look, your members are coming to you for one reason. They want to generate more leads and more traffic, and they're doing this and that. If we could show them how to do more with the lead and the traffic that they're getting to maximize the work that you're doing together, we believe they would stay longer, and the retention would go greater as they grow their business. And that's exactly what ended up happening. We've been working with them for 7-8 years now, because their clients who work with us stay longer because they're growing and they do better. So it's like, so if you can solve somebody's, the way that we coach it is we say, what is a meaningful KPI beyond the revenue that you can make an impact in
Mhm.
somebody's business?
Yeah.
And so if that KPI for us is retention for that particular case, boom, then we solve for that retention. And
Mhm.
in some cases, like for Founders Fuel, the KPI that we would solve would be, hey, if you're working with a particular client who's coming to you with issues of focus and whatnot, we do believe it also is going to help with retention, because you're going to have better results as a result of doing that.
Yep.
If you're going to work for like a lot of like kava bars and whatnot, they may do something like this. In that case, it might be increasing the lifetime customer value or increasing the average purchase
Mhm.
of what they're doing, not the referral money, that's bonus, but the average purchase price of what happens at point of purchase while they're there in the store. So
Yep.
there are a lot of different ways that we could go about it, but it is creating a KPI or solving for a KPI.
What are their challenges, right? What are their business challenges? How can you fit into their KPIs and their growth trajectory so you can provide value to them? Tactically, what does that look like? Like what would a business who's looking to enter into partnerships expect to give to a partner? Like I look at it from I'd like to send referrals to them. I'd like to help them, increase their visibility, if they're looking to grow, right? Like so I come at it from where can I piece myself in their trajectory? And it sounds like you do the same thing. So from a day-to-day standpoint, if you were a small business, right, and you're a small shop and your time and attention is pulled in a million different directions as all small business owners are, what reasonably should you expect to give to a partner? Like, should you expect to give, understand their business and be able to refer people to them, look for ways to include them in your marketing, help give them some more visibility, maybe put on events together, that kind of thing? Is that what you're talking about tactically?
Yeah, I mean, again, even still with referring people, if I'm going to refer somebody, I want to know what is the problem that they're solving that's going to be able to help my clients.
Mhm.
For example, you and I engaged in a partnership as it related to merchant accounts, right?
Yes.
So it was like one of the ways that we look at it is we can refer business over to you because you found a way to be able to have a easier way to process payments
Mhm.
more affordably than other options and
And
alternatives out
more
there
safely, frankly.
and more safely. Right. So it's like, so for me, when I have a moral and ethical responsibility to take care of my clients, for me, it was okay, this is something that I would be referring people to, even if we didn't have a formalized agreement. And that just makes it super easy. But if I couldn't find a way that I was able to benefit my clients, it makes it harder for me to refer business, right? So, and even so, if we're talking about like founders feel like it's a lot easier for predictable profits because of the different the problems that we solve for business owners.
Mhm.
Now, founders feel is a little different, right? Because founders feel is a product. And so if this is going to go into somebody's location and now their sales, right? For me, I have to find out, okay, what are the different ways that I can help support them? Now, you could do it in the form of awareness. So we could do it by let's create a podcast, let's write an article, let's feature you as a preferred vendor on the website. And let's, try to drive much more of that awareness, maybe even run events at that location
Mhm.
to drive that type of interest. And
Mhm.
then on the flip side of the coin, what a lot of vendors would have difficulty with if I was to say, give founders fuel over to a company is they might like it, but not sure how to promote it, not sure how to sell it and whatnot. So help them become as successful as possible. That might mean, what is the displays that I have to create for that particular partner so that where are they going to put it? And what does this display look like so that it becomes more prominent
Mhm.
and they can sell more and people look for it? Does it require a lot of education? Because either I've got to train people or give them some cheat sheets or in the display have something that makes it easy for people to understand.
Mhm.
So I want to help them make as much money as possible.
Mhm.
And as long as they're making much money, whether that's me sending clients their way or them selling more product, that they're going to want to continue doing business with me.
Mhm.
It's simple math. But one of the mistakes that I see over and over and over again is that companies work so hard to form a partnership and they go, okay, great, you're willing to do it. And then they turn around and they try to form a different partnership with somebody else and they ignore the partner that they just signed up.
Yep.
And uh and the partner eventually just doesn't reorder or doesn't continue to
Mhm.
perform. So we find that a regular cadence minimum of once per week, I'm sorry, once per month. A lot of times our best partners are twice per month.
Mhm.
We just have regular touch and base, even if it's for 15 minutes,
Mhm.
Just making sure that we're understanding that things are going well. What are the constraints that they're currently finding in, the type of relationship? How can we solve for the constraints and so forth? We end up going once somebody becomes a partner, we end up almost acting as a consultant for the partner, just
Mhm.
trying to help them as much as possible, sell more product, make as much money as they possibly can as a result of the partnership together.
Got it.
And one of the partners that best partnership examples that I've seen over and over again that works out really, really well is Taco Bell and Doritos. Taco Bell, they had an opportunity. I mean, they have shells, right, all the time. It's easy for them just to be like, let's put a little Cool Ranch on our shells, and then we'll just sell Cool Ranch, tacos. But they understood the power of leveraging somebody else's audience as well, right? Somebody else's fan base. So Doritos and Taco Bell came together and they're like, let's go ahead and let's cross promote and cross market. And you reach out to your audience and I'll reach out to my audience. Let's do a big shebang and make this a really exciting limited product and create an event out of this. And as a result, they just sold millions and millions and millions and millions of tacos.
Mhm.
So there are so many different ways. We're only limited by our imagination. So it's when we think about it as not just, okay, you're going to push my product, yippee, like all great. Now that's really when the work begins. Now it's like, okay, we've just signed a partner. Now I have an obligation to help you sell as much of my product as possible so that you make as much money as I can and I make as much money as I can. What does that look like? And then it could be cross promoting events and marketing and awareness, all the stuff that we talked about, but it really is important to understand that that's when the work begins, is once the partnership starts,
Mhm.
because you really need to help them become successful.
Yes, absolutely true. I mean, that is kind of the commitment to partnership, right? Is that it's bi-directional. You're absolutely right about people bringing on a partner and then expecting it to be all about them, right? Send
Yeah.
me referrals, support me, mention me. And
Yeah.
what they
Yeah.
don't understand is the most fundamental thing about partnership is that it's bi-directional.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Exactly.
work unless it is. Like,
Yeah.
if you expect something from someone, you have to be willing and able to give back.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely right.
So
Absolutely right.
that is, I think, the biggest mistake I've seen in partnerships. What other big mistakes do you see people make when they try to, bring on, build a partner program or bring on partners or anything related to that sort of model?
I mean, lack of communication is the biggest one, like you mentioned, where people are just saying, go ahead and refer business over to me and so forth. In terms of other mistakes, again, not focusing on the problem that they're solving for is a big one. I think we pretty much hit like the big ones. I guess another one would be they don't put enough thought into what the partner is currently selling and how that may end up cannibalizing their existing business. For example, like one of the things that we learned is that at least on the predictable profit side of things, that there are certain partners that we work with that one of two things happen. Either we're both high ticket, so either they stop working with the partner to work with us,
Mhm.
or they stop working with us to then work with the partner. And so we end up cannibalizing ourselves because it doesn't work out that well where both of us end up having both of those partners. So in the same thing, it's like when you look and identify a partner, like for Founders Fuel as an example, it's a lot easier because with Founders Fuel, it's not like somebody's going to say, I'm not going to go work with my functional medicine expert because you sell Founders Fuel, right? But you do want to make sure that there is direct alignment with the mission and goals of the company itself and how your product fits in with it, not actually takes away and cannibalizes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah.
I think that's smart even for me to keep top of mind. And I do find sometimes that because I'm such a partner person and I can only do so many things in a given amount of hours, that I need to be more conscious about how many partners I bring on around the same time, right?
Yeah.
Because I do want to give partners my attention, our attention. I do want to give back to them. That's, I've been preaching that for decades. Like partnership is fundamentally reciprocity.
Yeah.
And I do want them to value us as a partner. And sometimes when I'm doing outreach and I get a number of folks who are like, yeah, we'd like to talk about partnership. Like it's sort of the cycle sort of ebbs and flows, right? I get to a
Yeah.
peak and then I have frankly too many partners to pay attention to at that moment. And I have
Yeah.
to adjust my outreach so that those peaks are more reasonable and we have fewer valleys, right? It's a more consistent flow of conversations beginning and then the maintenance and what have you. So I have fallen into that trap myself.
I'd rather have 5 really good partners
Mhm.
than 50
Right.
partners.
For sure. Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
And I have found that if you don't set the expectations very early on in the relationship and the engagement, then things start to kind of peter away and
Mhm.
fall apart too. So, that part is also really important. Be
Right.
crystal clear. And by the way, it also helps. We did this with Founders Fuel. In a partnership, it's a relationship. You're dating, right? And
Mhm.
to determine if it makes sense. So,
Mhm.
for one of our particular partners with Founders Fuel, it was really, felt like it was really good alignment with this particular organization. There was a little bit of some skepticism because they've heard Founders Fuel is great. They believe it to be true. They just don't know if their clients are going to find the same impact. So it's like, look, before we go all crazy, and let's just run a pilot. Let's do a test, and let's start slow. Let's not rush into it.
Mhm.
Let's start slow. Let's start seeding the waters. Let's see if it works out well. That are your clients are as happy as we believe that they're going to be as a result. And then from there, then let's take it to the next level. And when we started doing that, rather than saying, "Hey, let's go all in and you're going to get married to me on day 1." We go, let's start slow. Let's
Mhm.
just do a little bit here, a little bit there. Let's see if this resonates well with your customer base, your clients. That actually has worked out well, and our close rates went way up. And then it also let us know, is this a partner that is worth spending time and resources
Right.
in? Because if it's not, then we're not going to move forward, because we have a small business. So as a result, we can't, if we had 100 partners sign up this month, it would be, we can't actually do
Mhm.
that. Like, great, refer all the business you can, but we can't actually support you in the way that we would like to support a partner.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So before we sign off, any top of mind partner related thoughts that you'd like to share or that you think would be valuable for the audience to know?
When I was first getting into business many, 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 many moons ago, um, I was listening to an interview with one of my mentors, and he was asked a question. He said, "You have built multiple different businesses. You've had a lot of success all around the world. If you could only have one strategy and only one strategy and nothing else, what would just that one strategy be?"
Mhm.
And he said, "Partnerships.
Mm.
Partnerships would be my primary strategy, for the exact reason that we spoke about earlier. You
Mhm.
take one partner and
Mhm.
they can bring in hundreds or thousands of different opportunities and customers and clients to you." Right.
Close.
So partnerships create that instant leverage. It's definitely worth something, investing your time, money in. And the thing is, with a partner, it doesn't cost you anything until they start moving your product, until they start selling your service, and then you give them a percentage. It doesn't really cost you anything other than the time to help them become successful.
Right.
Huge, huge leverage points. You're not paying for advertising. You're not paying for, anything else for that matter. It's a big leverage point. Highly recommend it.
Which I'm sure is music to a small business owner's ears.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Excellent. Excellent. Charlie, thank you so much for having a chat with me, spending time with us. I love talking about partnerships. It's my wheelhouse always. So thank you again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
You bet. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the High Risk Payments Playbook. If this episode brought you value, share it with a partner or a merchant who operates in a high-risk industry. For more insights and resources, please visit us at zenti.com. That's ZENTI.com. Until next time, operate with efficiency, process smarter, and stay ahead of risk.